Give me another unit on the plane, please.
If you are ever going to put hands on
Grab
me?
your bag.
No.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Colonel channel. I am your self-proclaimed commander, Lieutenant Colonel Lee R. Wolfgram. I also am a criminal defense attorney here in Minneapolis. And we started the series, Don't Be a Dumbass. Everybody has dumbass moments. So when I'm talking about don't be a dumbass, me included. So I'm going to start this episode off with me being a dumbass. I will show you later in the future the full video. But just to give you a flavor of everybody has their dumbass moments. This is my dumbass moment. Here's my thumb. Here's how it got there. This is me being a dumbass. That sound was my thumb as the helicopter landed on it.
Ouch. Fuck.
And then they pried my fingernail off. Don't be a dumbass. In the legal sense, it goes something like this. Cooperate with the police. Shut your mouth and get a hold of an attorney at the earliest opportunity. You're going to hear a lot about talk about what he said, when he talked to the investigator. He's locked himself into certain defenses. And I want to illustrate this to you. And at the end of this, I'm going to come back and we're going to give some advice. If he were my client, things that I would do, things that I would tell him to mitigate the consequences of whatever evidence they have. So let's get started.
Transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins us now. Chris, court documents show that Emerson said he had taken mushrooms a couple of days before the flight.
Emerson said, see?
Lawyers say he was not under the influence of those mushrooms at the time he was on the plane. What can you tell us about what we actually know?
Well, you know, certainly there will probably be some toxicology tests and things.
Certainly there will be toxicology tests. Like the moment he gets off the aircraft, he's going straight to a toxicology test. So it's either one of two things. Either he is actually under the influence of magic mushrooms, or he is not, in which case he's had a breakdown. Let's see.
Like that will come out as this case progresses that may clear up whether or not there was something in his system. What we know from the charging documents is that Emerson allegedly told police that he had tried psychedelic so-called magic mushrooms about 48 hours before this flight, that he had been battling depression, that he'd been up for 40 hours, and that when he pulled these handles in the cockpit to try to disable the engines, allegedly, he said that he felt like he was in a dream and was trying to wake up.
An FBI agent that's investigating, he told flight attendants, quote, "I messed up everything," later adding that he tried to kill everybody. He also said that he was taking shrooms prior to the flight, telling them he's been battling depression after a friend's death.
An off-duty pilot accused of trying to turn off the engines mid-flight during an Alaska Airlines flight over the weekend. I know we have new documents. What have we learned?
This story just took a bizarre turn, Kate. A new federal complaint says that this off-duty pilot, Joseph Emerson, may have been taking psychedelic mushrooms.
The suspect admitted to recently using psychedelic mushrooms.
Wild, psychedelic, magic mushroom trip.
Okay. So none of that would be out if he adhered to the don't be a dumbass legal rules, and he would have what? Shut his mouth. You can still cooperate with the authorities when they give you an instruction, do it. You don't have to answer their questions. Keep your mouth shut and get a hold of an attorney as soon as possible.
Now, Emerson told investigators that in addition to taking magic mushrooms a day or two ahead of that flight, that he was depressed and hadn't slept in roughly 40 hours. He even was quoted as telling police, "I'm admitting to what I did."
I'm admitting to what I did. Okay, not a helpful comment for the defense. I tried to kill everybody. Not a helpful part of the defense.
He was doing this. I'm going to quote from the complaint. The officer and Emerson, this is the interrogating officer, talked about the use of psychedelic mushrooms, and Emerson said it was his first time taking mushrooms. That's from the federal complaint. The FBI is investigating, we're told, whether he was under the influence or to what extent when he tried to shut down the plane's engines while sitting in the cockpit. There are other new details in this federal complaint, which is in addition to state charges that include attempted murder. So the federal charges is interference with a flight crew. And what they say is that the complaint quotes Emerson as saying to an airline employee, "I didn't feel okay." This is after the incident. "It seemed like the pilots weren't paying attention to what was going on. It didn't seem right." He continues, "Yeah, I pulled both emergency shutoff handles because I thought I was dreaming and I just wanted to wake up." The complaint goes on to say that after he was ejected from the cockpit because the pilots took control and made sure he didn't shut down the engines, he tried to open the emergency exit of the plane, and a flight attendant had to talk him out of doing that. So he's in jail right now, facing both federal and state charges, Kate.
The off-duty pilot accused of trying to shut down a plane's engines mid-flight is appearing in federal court today. Joseph Emerson faces 83 counts of attempted murder, one for each passenger on Sunday's Alaska Airlines flight.
Okay, now let's talk about this for a moment. So the 83 counts of attempted murder, really they're going to have an issue here with intent, but for that statement he gave about killing everyone. Now, that could be taken in the wrong context. That's why you just don't say anything at all.
Tonight, our first look at 44-year-old Alaska Airlines captain Joseph Emerson in court facing 83 counts of attempted murder after he allegedly attempted to turn off the engines of Alaska Flight 2059 while he was off duty and riding in the cockpit jump seat Sunday night.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit.
According to newly released court documents, Emerson told police he was having a nervous breakdown, hadn't slept in 40 hours, was battling depression, and had consumed, quote, magic mushrooms 2 days earlier. About a half hour into the flight, the pilots told investigators Emerson threw off his headset and pulled red fire handles like these that can cut off fuel to the engines. One of the pilots said he wrestled Emerson away from the controls and asked him to leave the cockpit.
Interesting. He asked him to leave, and he did.
Police say Emerson told them he did it because I thought I was dreaming and I just want to wake up. While in the back of the plane, court documents say Emerson asked to be handcuffed, but then tried to open an emergency exit door. Police arrested him when the plane landed in Portland.
Big surprise. Guess what happens when you talk too much? You get arrested. You get brought before the judge. That's going to happen anyway. It's best they don't have evidence that you gave them.
There is probable cause to believe that defendant has committed one of the offenses.
On top of the charges we're talking about here, we also know the feds are pursuing their own case, meaning not only will he be back in court to find out if he can make bail, but he'll also have to face a judge as the feds go after him as well.
Captain Laura Einsettler.
The crew that was operating this flight did an excellent job being able to actually challenge him, get him away from the controls, and subdue him and be able to get him into the back of the aircraft.
Okay, now let's talk about if you do find yourself in a situation where you have made a dumbass decision like this in the law. Look, we still have many things we can do, and let's just say you've come to my office, Captain Emerson. Here's what we're going to say. So now that you have indicated that there is some concern about your mental health, we're going to have to run with that. And that may be the truth, but we're going to have to run with that now because that is going to be a mitigating factor. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you don't have any liability here. But what it does mean is that there wasn't any intent here. And I'm going to give you some advice. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get you out. You need to get out of custody, so we're going to have to set a bond. We're going to have to get you a psychological evaluation, and you are going to have to follow those recommendations. Due to the fact that the mushrooms are illegal, We're also going to have to get a chemical use assessment, and we're going to have to follow the recommendations of all of those things. We're not saying another word, and we're going to demand all the evidence that the state has as we prepare for our Plan A. Plan A is always make it go away. Get the case dismissed. Get a not guilty verdict from a jury. That's not always that is not always possible, and that's because lawyers aren't magic. We're kind of stuck with the video, the body-worn cameras, and the evidence that's already in by the time you come to us.
I haven't heard his defense quite yet.
We would waive further reading and advice of rights, reserve all rights read into the record this morning, enter not guilty plea on all counts.
He has pleaded not guilty to all counts.
So I think it is a question as to what happened in that cockpit.
It absolutely is a question, and that is good. We want questions for the jury. What did happen in that cockpit? So we're going to leave it at that, but then we're going to show this is not normal conduct. There must be evidently something going on that would take this man who has devoted his life to aviation, has, I'm sure, flown thousands of hours with people in the back. This is not his normal conduct. So you see, we're starting to develop a defense, but we're attacking what the primary concern is right off the bat. That's your mental health.
He also talked about mental health issues in the past, I believe, right, Ken?
Yeah, that's correct. And the complaint says that he was experiencing depression. He lives in Northern California, and there's been interviews with neighbors who said they found him to be a very pleasant and normal person and never didn't see any sign of anything amiss, Kate.
All right, more to come on that.
Emerson also allegedly told police, based on the charging documents, that he felt like he was having a nervous breakdown. So, clearly something was off here. Whether or not he was under the influence or not, we don't know. Certainly for his defense, his lawyers will argue that he was not, because if he was high, it is likely that that's going to weigh heavily into what kind of criminal charges, what kind of plea deal, what kind of sentences he could face if in fact convicted. Now, his lawyer, in a statement, says that Emerson...
You have to have compassion for this man, because I have to tell you, to become an airline pilot, it has to be a lifelong commitment. It's very expensive, and it's to work your way up into the airlines, you really have to be committed to that lifestyle, because it requires a lot of work. And generally speaking, the pilots come from, I guess, a demographic that is they're used to stress. They're trained from the first time you begin pilot training. They're rolling throttles off, meaning instructors. They're rolling the throttles off on you. They're challenging your ability to handle stress. So this man clearly has the experience and the background to manage stress. Something has caused this to go beyond his ability to cope. Not very characteristic of a pilot.
As a caring father, a loving husband, and a skilled aviator, he would never intentionally hurt another person and was not under the influence of intoxicants. So, and Alaska says that when he boarded the flight, there was no evidence that he was under the influence of something or impaired.
Now, without knowing Captain Emerson, I tend to believe what his lawyer's saying. Pilots just aren't the kind of people that are going to go take drugs, get on the aircraft. As a group of people, pilots are very concerned about safety in the first place.
It is a low point for 44-year-old Joseph Emerson, now facing 83 attempted murder charges.
Let me ask you
The longtime pilot was a regular in our parks, not only as a pilot for Alaska Airlines, but as a Cheney grad.
I've flown a variety of aircraft throughout my career.
In a video posted by the Cheney School District several years back, Emerson was being celebrated in this profile. He talked about falling in love with flying as a kid and knowing it was his future.
The background that I got through my experiences in Cheney as a community, in Spokane as a community, helped make me the man I am today.
They're just great neighbors, nice people.
Neighbors in California couldn't believe the news either. From the well-manicured lawn down to the Halloween decorations, nothing seemed off. A deep dive into his social media accounts found Emerson, pictured here smiling and playing a ukulele, as a guy focused on two things: sports and flying.
Our grandson goes over there when he's visiting us, and his kids come over here.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit.
But on Sunday, Emerson is accused of trying to crash a plane with 83 people on board. That includes 11 kids under 14.
See, Now, he's got children himself. This is, again, so out of character. So there must be something else going on. He's going to be judged by a jury of his peers. And I think it appears there's a possibility for the defense to show this is not his normal conduct. He doesn't have a criminal intent.
Emerson, off duty and riding in what's known as a jump seat in the cockpit, was talking weather before suddenly stating, "I'm not okay," and grabbing for a lever that would essentially have killed the engines, turning that plane into a jumbo-sized glider.
Yes, jumbo-sized glider. Now, after this happened, almost all of my friends are pilots, and some of them are airline pilots. And so we had a discussion about this. So at that altitude, he was over 30,000 feet at this time. Yes, it becomes a glider, but it also, at that altitude, there's a lot of time left before you impact the ground. And the emergency procedure for this is going to be simply an engine restart. There's nothing mechanically wrong with these engines if they were to fail. What's wrong with them is they don't have fuel. So when you restore the fuel source, you can attempt a restart. And although I haven't flown this particular aircraft, that is going to be the emergency procedure. I can guarantee it.
A FlightAware shows how the flight meant for San Francisco quickly rerouted to Portland. In a court document obtained by Fox 13, we learned that he told the flight attendant, quote, "You need to cuff me now or it's going to be bad," only later to reach for an emergency exit before a flight attendant stopped him.
Stopped him, but doesn't sound like they struggled with him.
The federal charges is interference with a flight crew.
The 44-year-old is also charged with interfering with a flight crew.
Now, I'm going to stop the video here because I have an example of how disruptive and dangerous this can become. And this is a different dumbass. And if I were her attorney, I would give her similar advice. Okay, you've gone past the dumbass stage. Your conduct is caught on camera. The jury of your peers, by the way, are the same kind of people that are sitting in that aircraft. None of them are acting this way. So you're going to need to go get a chemical use assessment, and you're going to go need to get a psychological assessment. And we're going to have to, before we show up in court or talk to the prosecutor, we want these things already started to demonstrate that you're taking this seriously, because we're in the damage management or mitigation mode at this point. Now, in this video here, you're going to see somebody and you'll get an idea for what I mean. This person, can you imagine if this happened in the air? Talk about interfering with an air crew. Thank God the air crew got this individual off the aircraft before it even took off.
Okay. Hello.
We're going to take you off the aircraft. Where'd you at?
Yep, you're going to have to get off the aircraft,
yeah,
okay?
and you're out there,
yep.
and I compliment you in that way.
She's a representative of the aircraft. They don't want you flying on their plane today, okay? So you're going to have to get off the aircraft.
They made us wait and wait and wait.
Yeah, that's the way it is, but right now I'm going to need you...
And that's fine, and I will respect that.
Okay, so I'm going to need you to grab your bag and just step off the aircraft.
And I did not do anything, actually.
We'll talk about it outside.
Disruptive, besides speak my mind.
Okay.
I know what I live in America, and that's what fucking America's about.
Calm down.
No, you know
Listen
that.
to me. Grab your bag.
You know that. You know that.
Give me another unit on the plane, please.
If you are ever going to put hands on me.
Grab your bag.
No, I will grab my bag. But you know I'm going to sit here and zone up.
Listen, no one's going to put their hands on you.
All right, yeah, you
grab
won't.
Your bag and just step off
you
the
won't.
Okay, but I need you to get up.
No.
Okay.
You need me to get up? You may need me to get up, but you know what I feel my need to do as a person? Just like Jesus motherfucking Christ.
You need to calm
down. No, I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to say what I need to do. And if you...
She's going to say what she needs to do. Okay, violating these rules here about don't be a dumbass, right? What should she be doing? Shutting her mouth, cooperating with authorities, and getting a hold of a lawyer as soon as possible. And once you've gone down this road, you can start to do these things at any point in time. They're still going to help you. I prefer it never starts. But again, on both of these cases, had they just shut their mouths, you see how much difference that would make.
You're going to do whatever you feel you need to do to me, right? So I'm going to say what I have meant to say. No, to everybody.
Stand up, man.
Everybody is he's
You're
doing
going to get
this,
arrested if you do not
I'm
stop.
already gonna get arrested.
You're going to get arrested if you don't stand up and get off the aircraft.
Probably already gonna get
If you want to get arrested,
I really,
then stand up and get off the aircraft. That's all you have to do.
It's not about that, man.
Okay.
You can
I'm going to ask you one more time, and then I'm going to have to put my hands on you. Okay?
For what reason?
Because you're not
Let me
listening.
ask you that. You're gonna put no. And that's fine. That's fine. Why do you have a right to put your hands on me, though?
Okay, let's go, Ray. Come on.
No, why do you have a right to put your hands on me?
Ma'am.
What am I doing that makes you feel like you have a right to put your hands on me? Seriously, though, can you tell me that? Can you just help me to understand?
Tell him to deplane. Well, that's definitely interfering with the aircrew.
And as a human that is alive, why do you seriously though?
Yep. Get him
like
off.
seriously, why? Can you just tell me that? Like I'm actually asking you as a
At this
person.
point, here's what's happening. They're going to deplane the aircraft. I'm going to take you off the
That was
plane.
already happening. Don't.
And you're going to jail. Just so you
that
know.
was already happening.
It won't happen
Okay.
if you get up and walk out with me right now.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to,
Yeah. Right now, they're going to deplane. As soon as they deplane, you're going to jail. Okay? If you do not get up. That's how it's going to work.
Do you see how that's a threatening system?
That's the way it is, man.
Not cool.
Are you
I
gonna-
want to trust you. You want to trust me? That's not healing. We're not healing.
Okay, get off the
That's
plane.
not
Come on.
healing.
Get off the plane.
Can I trust you to not? I feel like you're still gonna.
Let's go. Off the plane. Grab your stuff. Grab your stuff.
Are
Get
you
off the
gonna? Can I
aircraft.
trust you?
Listen, have I touched you yet? I'm trying to get you off the aircraft. That's all we're trying to do.
Do a control situation. If I get off the plane, you said you wouldn't arrest me. So you as a cop should have to honor that.
Cooperate with the police. My other tip, not to give them information, but cooperate. So I've got something I can do for you. This is all being recorded, every second of it. It gets played for a jury.
No, you should though. You should have to honor that. That's my right.
Go talk to the cop and tell him we need to remove her.
It really is though. That's my right. It's like you need to. No, we're getting to the point where you're not respecting my human rights as a constitution. That's not true. I didn't do anything that did anything to. No, man. That's not okay, dude. That's not okay. You know it.
29 Central, 1015.
Why did you have
Chris, Emerson is a pilot himself. We know that there have been cases where pilots have been afraid to seek mental health care. As you said, he said that he was in a crisis at that moment. And part of the reason is because they are worried about losing their ability to have those licenses to fly. Talk to us about the screening process and what safeguards are in place for pilots who are going through a mental health crisis.
This is where, from the defense, we're going to shift some of the responsibility here to the FAA. The aircraft, modern aircraft, for the most part, fly themselves. When it comes to mental illness, look, there are 2 pilots in the cockpit. If there are low doses of antidepressant, then what you need to do is you just need to monitor that. As long as they're competent to fly the aircraft, they're passing their check rides, they're able to act to emergency procedures appropriately. Really? Who cares if they're taking a small dose of antidepressant?
You know, it's a really interesting question. I've talked to a lot of pilots over the years who are frustrated with the way mental health in particular is treated, and that they say that the system has created almost a stigma around seeking therapy for any reason, seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist for any reason, because they fear that if that is reported as required, that in their medical certification process, these medical evaluations they go through, as frequently as every 6 to 12 months, that they could be deemed not flight worthy for taking care of their mental health when they aren't really a danger. The flip side of that is after the Germanwings crash a few years ago, that there was some real concerns about somebody who is battling depression, and that is certainly an extreme case, to be very clear. But there is concern amongst pilots about being completely transparent if they seek help, and that can lead to some people not to seek help. And we know that that can be a real struggle. I've talked to pilots who, for a while, lost their flight qualifications because they sought care for depression, and that maybe isn't the way the system should work. And that's certainly something we've heard a lot from pilots in the last few days.
Right.
But there is a medical certification process, and Emerson passed it every time. Alaska said throughout his more than 2 decades as an airline pilot, these regular FAA medical certification examinations.
All right. Certainly destigmatizing people who need care is in everybody's best interest. All right, Chris Van Cleve, thank you.
Sure thing.
Thanks for watching, folks. Do some more of this. I'm going to share my dumbassery with you in the future, along with all the other adventure we're going to have. Until that time, it's Wolf 6 out here.